see a pencil. You need it?
No, I gotta go.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. We stopped in Bab Sifat al-Salat last week, and we finished a description of the sitting for the tashahhud, sitting for the tashahhud, and I don't think we did the end. طيب, we did the dua at the end of the tashahhud, and I'm not sure if we did the last sitting for the prayers that are either 3 rak'ah or 4 rak'ah. Did we do that? No, I don't think we did that. طيب. He says, قال رحمه الله, and this is just the description of the last sitting before we salam out. Because we did the tashahhud al-awwal after 2 rak'ah, how to sit, right, with Sheikh Umdah. But if it's 3 rak'ah or 4 rak'ah, it's a different sitting, a different picture. So he says, rahimahullah, ثُمَّ يَجْلِسُ مُتَوَرِّكًا لِلتَّشَهُدِ الْأَخِيرِ وكذا للمرأة لكن تضم نفسها وتسدل رجليها في جانب يمينها في جلوسها. At-Tawarruk, this sitting which is done at the last, it is, you know when people sit on the ground, right? But the legs are to the right, usually. No? You got it? Yeah, like that. Like that. At the end of it's 3 rak'ah or 4 rak'ah. Not at the end of 2 rak'ah. They specify. طيب. That's the description of the last sitting before the salam. And for the sister, for the woman, it's the same sitting. And we discussed a little bit of that, except they say the woman shouldn't spread her body too much. They say that the woman should try to keep her body a little closer together. Wallahu a'lam. The next chapter is fasl, the things that are disliked in the salah. Disliked to do. The actions that are disliked in the salah. He says, kuriha fi salah iltifatun. Number 1, the first thing that is disliked in the salah is iltifat, which is a lot of movement and turning around, and looking around and not being focused. Turning, moving, looking around, iltifat. As the Prophet ﷺ said, هو اختلاس يختلسه الشيطان من صلاة العبد. Sahih al-Bukhari, hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, that the moving and turning of a person is the shaitan stealing and taking from a person's salah. That the devil, the shaitan, is taking and stealing from a person's salah when they do that movement like that. Now the movement, depending on the movement, because some movements could break the salah in totality. Some movements can break the entire salah. As it says, إن استدار بجملته أو استدبر القبلة. If a person turns too much, turns away from the qibla, they face their back to the qibla during the salah. Does that ever happen? Does a person ever turn their back to the qibla in the salah? Huh? No. During the prayer. You ever see a person turn their back? طيب. if a person were to do that, except in the case of severe fear. If it's a high level of fear and they think something's going to happen and they turn around in a certain case like that. But if a person, as it says, it's the dawla bi jumlati, turns most of their body away. And sometimes you see brothers, I don't know about the sisters, but they're using the hadith that when the shaitan comes to spit over your left shoulder. Right? Right. But sometimes brothers are turning away from the qibla. They're leaning back of the rank, right? And turning away from the qibla. You got to be careful not to turn too far away from the qibla, as it was explained. As one of the mashayikh explained to us, that it wasn't necessarily that you have to, like that you don't want to turn too far away from the qibla, but this way is enough, not that the whole body has to turn away from the qibla. The second thing, وَرَفْعُ بَصَرِهِ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ. And the second thing that is disliked. Dislike meaning it's not, these things don't necessarily invalidate the prayer. Not necessarily, but at the least it's something disliked to do in the salah. He says a person raising their eyes, looking in the sky while they're praying. Right? So a person's praying and they're looking up, raising their eyesight to the ceiling or the sky, whatever they're looking at. They say except in one case that it's not disliked to, for example, a person to raise their head in the salah. Anybody know? He said if a person, for example, if they burp in the salah, right, so that they don't harm the people next to them, they might try to divert the smell coming out. So they might raise their head up so that the smell doesn't bother the people next to them. They said except in a case like that. Other than that, then it's disliked to raise the eyesight during the salah. The third thing, iqa'un. This is a type of sitting, iqa'un, where when for the tashahhud, for example, that a person basically sits on their heels. To sit on the heels. You with me? To sit on the actual both feet, and a person sits on the heels. So what are they doing? They're not laying the leg flat like the sunnah. That the left leg should be laid flat, and the right leg should be up, right? But they have both feet up, and they actually sit on the heels. That this is disliked. It's called iqa'un. That's the third one. طيب. He says after that, وافتراش ذراعيه ساجدا. وافتراش ذراعيه ساجدا. When we're making sajda, is disliked in the sajda. The sajda should be that the arms are away from the body, right? When we're on the ground, the face is on the ground, and the arms should be away from the body with the ability, as long as you're not knocking people over and causing a disturbance to your neighbor in the salah. But for the imam or the person praying by themselves, that the description should be that the body is spread. So the dislike thing is to make sajda and that this part of the arm is on the ground, like this. So that a person bows down to make the sajda, and all of this is on the ground. It's flat. Everybody with me? So that it's not like this. It should be like this. But when a person makes the sajda, instead, they put both of their, this is, I guess, the forearm, right? The bottom of the forearm. That both of them are flat. As the Prophet ﷺ said, اعتدلوا في السجود ولا يبسط أحدكم ذراعيه انبساط الكلب. That do not spread your arms on the ground like a dog, right? Like a dog spreads the arms on the ground in the salah. The hadith is in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. The next thing, and that's the third one. The fourth thing, abith. Just unnecessary movement. Unnecessary movement. Now, not necessarily playing, but sometimes we might call it playing with something. It's a thread hanging from your shirt, right? Or something is whatever. Unnecessary movement, not connected to the salah. Abith. لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رأى رجلا يعبث في الصلاة. He saw a man playing and moving around in the salah, not necessarily playing, but unnecessary movement in the salah. So he says, صلى الله عليه وسلم, لو خشع قلب هذا لخشعت جوارحه. If the person who's doing all this movement, if their heart was focused, then their limbs, the rest of their body will be focused. So the fact that unnecessary movement shows that a person is not focused on the salah. And sometimes it's clothes, sometimes it's the phone, right? Usually, a lot of times it's clothes. Brothers, I don't know about the sisters, but the brothers, sometimes it's the beard, playing with your beard in the salah, hair, anything taken away from focusing on the prayer. Tayyib. That was the fifth one. The sixth one was the khassur. The khassur is putting the hands on your sides in the salah. As where do the hands go? In every position. In every position in the salah, the hands have a place. Right? Always. Are the hands on the chest the whole time in the salah? Huh? No, not the entire salah. But when we standing up, the hands on the chest. When you record, the hands are on the knees. In sajda, the hands on the floor, on the ground. The sitting between the two sajdas on thigh. So the hands have a place everywhere. To take them out of that place and put them somewhere other than, as it says here, on the sides, this is disliked. Now, the argument used is, this is one of the arguments, if the hands have a place for every position in the salah, right? Then that means after we make the takbir, Allahu Akbar, and we in qiyam, we're standing, where do the hands go? On the chest, right? Tayyib. Then we go to ruku', and the hands in ruku' go where? On the knees. Tayyib. When we go back to qiyam, the hands go where?
Either or, it's different.
Either or. The argument is the position of the hands, the official, for lack of better words, the official position of the hands when you're standing is the chest. So now they're saying, why when you come out of the corner, you stand back up, you don't put them back in the official position? That's an argument. We're not getting into the argument, but just since we're talking about the hands having a position in each, a place in each position. Tayyib. So to put the hands on the side is something that is disliked. The seventh one, with tarawwuh, fanning yourself in the salah. I don't know about men, but sisters, fanning yourself in the salah. And a brother might fan yourself, it might be, except if it's severe heat, then it's not disliked, but generally, right, to fan yourself while you're praying. Right? To fan yourself while you're praying. Why? What's the problem with that? You're not focused. Movement. It's extra movement that's not connected to the prayer. Anything that's going to divert you from the actions of the salah. Right? As it says, إِلَّا لِحَاجَةٍ, except for a severe need, like if it's hot. Right? Maybe somebody's praying in the area, it's hot, there's no air, there's a situation where it's hot. But generally, fanning yourself. Tayyib. He says, فَرْكَعَةُ أَصَابِعِ, فَرْكَعَةُ أَصَابِعِ, cracking the knuckles in the salah. You ever see people do that? Yeah. People get in the salah and they, before the salah, All the time before they're there in the account. No, as soon as the salat comes, they start cracking the knuckles, right? Due to the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا تقعر الصابع وأنت في الصلاة. Don't crack the knuckles while you're in the prayer, while you're in the salat. An Ali, rahmakallah. An Ali, that's recorded by Ibn Majah. طيب. Cracking the fingers or cracking the hands in the salat with tashbikuha. It's salam to Allah. And also, you can say, what do you call this? Interlocking the hands or something like that inside of the salat. Inside of the salat, due to the prohibition of the Prophet ﷺ, رَجُلًا شَبَّكَ أَصَابِعَهُ فِي الصَّلَاةِ. That the Prophet ﷺ saw a man doing that in the salat, وَفَرَّجَ. It says, فَفَرَّجَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ بَيْنَ أَصَابِعِهِ. So he separated between the man's hands while he was in the prayer. طيب. And there are a lot of other things that could be mentioned that are disliked in the salah that come under this. As he says, praying towards a surah, praying towards a picture. That a picture is in front of you while you're praying, right? Which doesn't necessitate, it doesn't mean that the salat is invalid if there's a picture in the room, right? Because I know we used to take all the pictures down, cover them up with sheets when you go into a room, or you go to somebody else's house, they're not Muslim, they got pictures hanging up, you're gonna go in there and take all of their pictures off their mantelpiece, and right? That is not going to invalidate the prayer, but it's not something that is recommended. And if you have the ability, then of course you shouldn't have, number one, we shouldn't have pictures in our houses hanging up, right? Due to the other hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. But you go somewhere and there's pictures in the place, then we do what we're able to do. We do what we're able in our ability. That we should pray towards the picture. He says, "Oh, mutahaddithan." If there's two people standing here praying, talking, there's two people standing here talking, somebody standing there talking, that you shouldn't go right there where they're talking and pray right in front of them. And they're standing in front of you having a whole conversation. Because if you're already praying there, nobody's going to walk in front of you and hold a conversation, right? But if they're already standing there talking, then it's just like to walk up to a conversation or a circle where people are conversating and pray right there where the people are conversating. What's the problem with that? Distraction. It's a simple distraction. It says, "O wajhi adami." Praying towards a person in general. Anything that's going to distract us from the salat is mentioned here that it's disliked to pray towards it. وَإِشَارَةٌ بِلَا حَاجَةٍ. And pointing to things or directing people, and there's not a need for that. Is that possible? That somebody is giving direction in the salat, directing people? Huh? Like what? Give me an example. Huh? You giving somebody directions. You praying and you telling somebody what to do in the salat. Maybe the bathroom, right? Somebody comes in, right? And you praying, but you point them to the bathroom. You point them to somewhere they need to go. You telling them whatever the case may be. Any type of ishara, any type of ishara, any type of directional order given from the person praying to another person without a need. Now, if it's kids running around, right? You might have to wave a kid off from the stove. You might have to wave an infant off from the stairs, the steps, or something like that. That don't mean we just in the salat and people falling out, cracking their head and we just still praying like we don't see it happen. That's not realistic. A kid falls down the steps and we're so focused we don't hear it. Except if it's a need, as it says, bila haja. طيب. He keeps going, he goes, he says, وَكَوْنُهُ حَاقِنًا وَنَحْوًا. That is dislike to pray while a person has to use the bathroom. Meaning, before the salat begins, you have to use the bathroom. So what do people do? They don't want to miss the salat. So I'm going to just pray like this, knowing I have to use the bathroom, because I don't want to miss the salat with the jama'ah, right? So I'm going to pray like this, knowing I have to use the bathroom, and then after the salat, I'll go use the bathroom, right? That this is dislike. Why? A distraction. It's going to distract the person from being totally focused in the salat. Now, it seems like now that the imam is reading a long surah, because you got to use the bathroom. Tayyib. Or the same for if a person has to break wind. If their stomach is not feeling, they don't want to break wind and they got to make wudu, then they come back and they miss the first rak'ah. So they do what? Hold it. Then in the salat, it comes back. Stuff going on. That's what it says, right? Like all of these things, as he says, the إِنَّهُ يَمْنَعُ الْخُشُوعِ. All of these things prevent a person from having total focus in the salah. It's real stuff, right? This stuff is real. It prevents a person from having focus in the salah. And he says that it's dislike, سَوَاءً خَافَ فَوْتَ الْجَمَاعَ أَوْ لَا. That is dislike to pray like that with these things. Even if a person thinks, they fear, if I go to use the bathroom, I'm going to miss the whole salah with the jama'ah. Even if that's the case. It's better to pray focused than to pray not focused. Even if they think they're going to miss the salah, that they should go use the bathroom or whatever it is they have to do. He says, أو بحضرة الطعام يشتهيه. Or when the food is ready. Food is ready to be served, right? And a person wants to eat. A person wants to eat. Tayyib. Everybody with me? The food is being served, and a person wants to eat. In this case, then also it is dislike to pray while the food is being served and the person wants to eat. Also, the same reason, it's a distraction. Tayyib. That was number 11. Number 12, وَتَكْرَارُ الْفَاتِحَةِ. And to constantly repeat Al-Fatiha. To constantly repeat Al-Fatiha. You read Al-Fatiha, finish, Ameen, and then read Al-Fatiha again. Usually, you read Al-Fatiha and then another surah. But a person, they come and they read Al-Fatiha, they finish Al-Fatiha and they read Al-Fatiha again. Takrar Al-Fatiha, he says, لِأَنَّهُ لَمْ يُنْقَلْ. Because the repetition of Al-Fatiha like that in the Salah has not been reported. It's not narrated that that was done by the Prophet ﷺ. It hasn't been reported that that was done. It says, لا جمع سور في فرض كنفل. It's not dislike to combine two surahs after Al-Fatiha. Meaning a person reads Al-Fatiha and then they read, after Al-Fatiha they read Surah Al-Falaq, and then they read after Surah Al-Falaq Al-Nas. Or they read Surah Al-Rahman. Then after they read Surah Al-Rahman, they read Qul Huwallahu Ahad. That this is not a problem. This is not a problem because the Prophet ﷺ قرأ في ركعة من قيامه بالبقرة وآل عمران والنساء. That the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed and he read in a rak'ah from Surah Al-Baqarah, then Ali Imran, and then An-Nisa, Surah An-Nisa. So combining the surahs, the different surah, is not the problem. But to repeat Al-Fatiha over and over has not been narrated on the Prophet ﷺ. Tayyib. He says now, Tayyib. وَسُنَّ لَهُ. And now he goes into some of the sunnah of the salah. Inshallah, we finish this today. He says, وَسُنَّ لَهُ رَدُّ مَارٍ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ. Sunnah is that a person stops the person if you're praying and somebody tries to walk in front of you. It's the sunnah to stop them from walking in front of you while you're praying. That don't mean you gotta shove them down. That don't mean you gotta smack them in the chest. To stop the person from walking in front of you. Give them some sign that you're praying. They might be on the phone, they might not be paying attention. They might not know that we can't walk in front of Muslims while they're praying. Right? So you don't have to hit them necessarily. But the sunnah is that you stop the person from walking in front of you while you're praying. طيب. And if they continue, if they refuse to go the other way, then you're allowed to use a little more force. That doesn't mean fight, as I think it's translated in English. It might say fight them. It doesn't mean fight like that, but it says you can use more force, as they might not understand what you're trying to do. The person may not understand, or they might be in a rush, right? So they try to keep going. At that point, you're allowed to use a little more force. فَإِنْ صَرَّ وَلَوْ it says فَإِنْ خَافَ فَسَادَ لَمْ يُقَرَّ دَفْعُهُ. And this is important. If you think that by you trying to stop the person is going to cause too much movement in your salah, right? Because too much movement in the salah could break the prayer, could invalidate the whole salah, right? So it says if you fear that trying to stop this person is going to cause too much movement, then you should stop. You should stop trying to resist them, or stop the resistance. Just allow them to go. Clear? طيب. That's the first thing he mentions from the sunnah, is that if a person is allowed, if somebody tries to walk in front of you, that you can stop them. طيب, he says, وَالصَّلَاةٌ إِلَى السُّطْرَةِ مُرْتَفِعَةٌ قَرِيبَ ذِرَاعٍ. Also from the sunnah is that a person prays using a sutra. A sutra. Does anybody know what a sutra is? Anybody don't know? Anybody doesn't know what a sutra is? Sutra? A sutra is anything that you put in front of you while you're praying. In order that it should be the height of a dhira'. A dhira' is like from here to here. So the sutra that you use should be something that high. There's nothing specific that has to be used. A lot of times people use chairs. Sometimes people use people. Somebody might use a minbar, somebody might use a wall. From the sunnah is to use a sutra. To use a sutra. And it should have that type of height to it. طيب.
I remember you saying before, you said you're not supposed to pray in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
So why does one use them as a sutra?
In front of people, meaning the faith they're facing. Because, and that's a reminder for both parties, both people. Sometimes a person is sitting here, right? Or sitting like this on the wall, and the brother come to pray, right? The brother come to pray, and the person sitting on the wall, they won't even move their feet. Like the brother's trying to pray, so you gotta make sajda right next to your feet, right? No, let me move. I know the brother's praying. I want to have my feet in his face when he go to make sajda. No, I'm sitting here. I was here first. I'm relaxed. He could have prayed somewhere else, right? Is there anywhere else to understand it? Or maybe I just didn't think the brother mind if I had my feet in his face while he made sajda. He might not mind, right? Either way, to face a person in praying is one thing. But usually when people use people for a sutra, they'll pray towards the back of them. Right? The dislike thing is to pray towards a person's face. طيب. فإن لم يجد خطًا كالهلال. What if a person is somewhere and they don't find a sutra? They don't find anything to put in front of them so that people know that they're praying, so that they can walk around it and things like that. Because if we have a sutra, it's okay if they walk around it, as long as they don't cut between you. If you're praying in front of a chair, then as long as they don't cut between you and the chair, you're fine. So what if you're somewhere and you can't find anything to use? He says, khatta kal hilal. That if a person is able, and of course, you would have to be in a situation where you could write, that you would draw like a half moon, like the hilal that we look for in the sky, and use that as a sutra. فَإِن لَمْ يَكُنْ مَعْهُ عَصًا فَلْيُخَطَّ خَطًّا. And if a person doesn't have a small stick or anything, then they can do something like that. وَلَهُ عَدُّ الْآيِ بِأَصَابِعِهِ وَالْفَتْحُ عَلَى إِمَامِهِ. It is also allowed to, after the sutra, and if a person doesn't have a sutra, I'm not sure how you would translate the sutra though. Sometimes they write it like that, S-T-R-U-A-H, something like that. But it's something to block you, like a chair, or whatever you're going to use. Even if you prayed in front of the table, then the table will be the sutra. So there's nothing specific that it has to be. And this using of the sutra is hadaran, if a person is traveling or if they're not traveling. If they're traveling or if they're not traveling. Due to the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, إِذَا صَلَّ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلْيُصَلِّ إِلَى السُّطْرَةِ وَلْيَدْنُ مِنْهَا. Recorded by Imam Abu Dawood wa Ibn Majah in Hadith Abi Sa'id, that the Prophet ﷺ said, if one of you prays, if one of you stands to pray, then they should pray towards a sutra. They should pray towards a sutra and they should get close to it. They should get close to the sutra, whatever it is that they're praying towards. And of course it should be high enough so that other people can see what it is. Also, it is allowed to count the ayat. The imam, for example, or whoever's leading the salat, they might want to read a specific number of verses per rak'ah. So they might use their fingers in the salat to count. Oh, we only got 1 minute to count the ayat. طيب. وَالْفَتْحُ عَلَى إِمَامِهِ. And also, it's allowed to correct the imam if he makes a mistake in the salat. If he misses an ayat and he pronounces something wrong, to correct the imam. Or if he gets stuck and he can't remember the verse, to help him out with the next verse. Also, lubsu thobin wa imama, the wearing of the thob and the imama, the turban. This is from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The wearing of the turban is from the sunnah. And lastly, also qatlu hiyya. If a person is in the salat in a snake or a scorpion, if you're in that situation, it's permissible to kill him. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak nabiyina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi.